Okay, welcome everyone. Nice to have everybody, and a special welcome back to Baruch. Baruch, you were very missed while you were away. It was really, really good to have you. Even while Baruch was away, he was still very connected, sending out all kinds of emails and watching over. We appreciate that as well. We are dedicated by the Fish family, Nishmas Basi Bas Rabbi Shalom Ben Avram Alevi Perel Bas Ruvain. Also, Refu Shalem for Yomis Mechai Sarah, L'Schus Avram Ben Yom Ben Ishbel Malki Yudis, L'Ilan Nishmas Avram Yishai Ben Shema Yoyos by Yol Klugman and family. What's your father's name?
Yitzchak Moshe David.
Yosef Moshe David.
Yitzchak Moshe David.
Yitzchak Moshe David.
Ben Reb Baruch.
Ben Reb Baruch. Shama should have an aliyah. Okay, so Mishnah Daled in the 10th parak. You know, when you learn two Mishnayos of Yevamos, that's not just something that you could, run right through. It's really what we call a chaticha horuya liskabed. It's a honorable piece of learning. So Misha Olcha Ishtay Lamdinas Yam, Reuven was married to Rachel. And they said, your wife died overseas. So he went ahead and married Leah, his wife's sister. And then afterwards, Rachel came back. She could go back to Rachel. Unfortunately, the bia that he had with Leah was a bia asura. And if they had a child, the child would be a mamzer because he was over an isser of Koros inadvertently. But that doesn't block, it's not like marriage, it doesn't block him from taking back his wife. And when Rachel comes back, he goes back to Rachel, and of course he leaves Leah. Hu mutar b'krov shniya, he's permitted to the relatives of Leah, ushniya mutar b'krov, and Leah is permitted to his relatives because their marriage wasn't a marriage. The immeiseri shine. Then, if Rachel dies, he could take Leah back. Mutar b'shniya, he could take Leah back. Amru loy meisa ishtecha. They told him Rachel died. V'nasa es achais, and he married Leah. V'achikach amru loy, and then they came back. Oops, we thought Rachel died, but she was in the hospital for 5 weeks, and only then she died. So amru loy kayemes haisa, she was alive. V'meisa. And then she died. Oops. So if they had a child from Leah before Rachel died, that child is a mamzer, because it was aches ishtay. Havlad rishon mamzer. If, however, they conceived after Rachel died, then that child is kosher. Va'achrein ein a mamzer. Now comes along Reb Yosi, and Reb Yosi makes things a little bit complicated. What happened over here is Reuven was married to Rachel, and Reuven was married to Rachel, and Leah was married to Chatzkel. Again, Reuven was married to Rachel, and Leah was married to Chatzkel. Leah was Rachel's sister. What happened is Rachel and Chatzkel went overseas. So Reuven's wife Rachel and his brother-in-law Chatzkel went overseas. So they come back and they say his wife and his brother-in-law died. So now he marries Leah. And then Chatzkel and Rachel come back. It's really terrible. Let's get the case again. Reuven is married to Rachel. Chatzkel is married to Leah. Chatzkel and Rachel, Reuven's wife, so Reuven's wife and his brother-in-law go overseas. And the report is that they were killed. They were killed. Terrorists killed them. And therefore, Reuven goes and marries Leah. Because his wife died, so he can marry his wife's sister. And her husband died, so she's a free woman. So he married her. And then, tragically, I mean, not tragic for them, but tragic for the situation, Chatzkel and Rachel come back home alive. So Rabbi Yossi says, it's all going to depend on if Leah needs a get from Reuven. If Leah needs a get from Reuven because it looked like he married her, so then he won't be able to take back his wife Rachel, because then it would look like Achos Grushasai. Then he wouldn't be able to take her back. There is a time, however, that Leah would not need a get from him. And if Leah would not need a get from him, so therefore, according to Rabbi Yossi, Chatzkel would be able to take back Leah because it doesn't look like Marzu Gushasai La'achar Shenisis. So then Reuven will be allowed to take back his wife. So when is what case? So here's what happens. If Reuven was married to Rachel, and now Reuven marries Leah, so when Rachel comes back alive, everybody will know that the marriage to Leah was a mistake, because you can't marry your wife's sister. So everybody will know that the marriage is a mistake, and therefore there's no need for Reuven to give Leah a get. And therefore, since there's no need to give Leah a get, so Leah could go back to her husband Chatzkel, and Reuven could take back his wife Rachel. However, if Reuven was only engaged to Rachel, there, when he marries Leah, he has to give a get. Because people will say, oh, maybe that Kiddushin was on a Tanai, and the Tanai wasn't fulfilled. And therefore the marriage with Leah was real. And therefore a get is necessary. Once a get is necessary, so just like she's forbidden now, Leah is forbidden to go back to her husband Chatzkel, he's not allowed to take back his wife Rachel because it looks like Achos Grushasai. So let's see that inside. It's really very, very complicated. But let's see it inside the words. Ois yois makimois. Reb Yossi aimer kol shepoisel al yedei acherim, where he has to give her a get, and therefore she becomes disqualified, Leah becomes disqualified to her husband Chatzkel, poisel yedei atzmai. Then he can't take her back, because it looks like Achos Grushas, he can't take back Rachel. The kol she'ein poisel yedei acherim, where he doesn't have to give her a get, so therefore, according to Rabbi Yossi, she's allowed to go and return to her husband Chatzkel, then eino paisal yedei atzmai, then he doesn't disqualify his own wife, and he could take back his wife Rachel. Now, Amrulai, now this is a really interesting case. A man marries girls who will call A, B, C, D, and E. They're not complicated names. A, B, C, D, and E. A and B are half-sisters, and B and C are half-sisters. But A is not related at all to C. C and D are half-sisters, and D and E are half-sisters. But again, girl C is not related to girl E at all, because all of them are only half-sisters. So Amrulai, they tell Reuven, Reuven was married to A. They tell him, Meisa Ishtacha, so v'nasa achoisa me'aviyah. He married his wife's paternal sister, married B. Meisa, then they tell him B died, v'nasa achoisa me'ima. And he married her maternal sister, C. Now there's no relationship between A and C. B and C are maternal sisters, and A and B are paternal sisters. Mesa, then they said C died, and he married D, her paternal sister. Mesa, they said D died, then he married her maternal sister. So the way it works is v'nimtza kulan kayamas. Oh my goodness. All 5 of the girls are alive. So he could stay with those that are unrelated. So he could stay with A, C, and E. B and D he can't stay with because B is a sister to A, and D is a sister to C. So muta b'rishayna b'shlishis b'chamishis, he's allowed to stay with the first, the third, and the fifth, A, C, and E. And if he dies, and Shimon gives chalitza to one of them, it exempts the other ones. Upaitris Sarasei. V'aser b'shniya b'rvi, but he's forbidden to B and to D, because B is a sister to A, that was no marriage since A is alive, and D is a sister to C, and that's no marriage since C is alive. Vein bias achas mehem p'teres sarasa, and if Shimon would be miyabim, B or D, it wouldn't be a yibam, because they were never married to his brother. It wouldn't exempt the co-wives. However, if it was true that A died, and he slept with B after A died, so now he's married to B. So then he's forbidden to C, permitted to D, and forbidden to E. So then B and D are his legal wives. So then his Kedushin with B is a good Kedushin. So then with C it's not a good Kedushin because it's B's sister. Then D is a good Kedushin, but then E is not a good Kedushin because it's D's sister. So then Mutter b'shniyu b'reviyah. He's permitted with B and D. Upaitris tzayir, and if the husband dies and he gives bia to one of them, it exempts the other. V'aser b'shlishish or b'chamishis, but he's forbidden to C and E, because C is related to B and E is related to D. Ve'ein bias achas mehem p'teres sarasa. And if the brother Shimon does bia with C or with E, it doesn't exempt the co-wives, because those weren't Ruvain's wives. Woo! That's something, huh?